Welcome. We are back. It is New Track Record Podcast. Caleb Hatch, Justin Kinney returning after the American Thanksgiving holiday layoff. We always take that week off along with the weeks around Christmas. Well, because quite honestly, there's usually not a lot of IndyCar news going on during that time frame. That held true until this week when we had more Alex Palou lawsuit rumors and news.
Man.
And really not so much on the legal part because that's where you lose us. But I think there's a question that we'll discuss that I wonder where things are going based on some other movement that's been announced. So we'll get to that this week. International races. We have some news there. One of our favorite topics on the show.
Third OEM.
Yeah,
we're just hitting clicking them all off today.
Lawsuits, international races, third OEM. I don't know what else.
The trifecta of excitement. Please keep listening.
But I hope those of you in America had a good Thanksgiving. I hope those of you in Canada, I know your Thanksgiving's before ours. Hopefully that went well. I don't know. Do other countries celebrate Thanksgiving outside of the U.S. and Canada?
I don't think the Native Americans.
I don't know how that works.
I don't think so. It's just an American thing, right?
And Canada does it like the week before or something.
Okay, but I don't think much other countries are celebrating
Grenada, St. Lucia, Liberia, unofficially in countries like Brazil, Germany, and the Philippines.
Okay.
Also observed in a Dutch town of I think Leiden, Australian territory of Norfolk Island.
So America, Canada, and a bunch of wannabes that want to be like Canada and America, apparently.
So,
but hopefully, whether you celebrate or not, you had a good week last week.
Japanese Thanksgiving falls on the 23rd of November, always, or if it's a Sunday, the following Monday. So apparently, they do have in Japan. So it's more widespread than I would have guessed.
All right. Well, do they eat stuffing and turkey? And
Probably not.
Potatoes?
Probably not.
All right.
What is your, before we dive into IndyCar, what is like the thing you like and the thing you can't stand?
Well, this is unique to my family. My aunt makes a amazing cinnamon bread.
Okay, interesting. That ties in sort of similar to my family.
Only makes an appearance in Thanksgiving, and she'll make like 8 loaves, and she makes honey butter with it. Clutch. So maybe not a quote unquote traditional Thanksgiving food, but that's what I look forward to at Thanksgiving. What I can't stand, let's see. I'm not a big sweet potatoes guy.
Oh.
Or green bean casserole. Don't be coming at me with green bean casserole. So I can stomach sweet potatoes with green bean casserole. No.
So
way.
We have sweet potatoes. I mean, a lot of people have it with the the marshmallows that are toasted on top.
Yeah.
Ours is like chopped pecans, a layer on top. It's like a glaze. So it's different. I think it's better. But the thing that like gotta have also in my family, they're called cinnamon dumplings, and you take a ton of butter, cinnamon, sugar, a little bit of water, and then you have like dough, like bread dough in a pan. You bake it. That's very unique to that's like a Christmas, Thanksgiving only kind of thing. So that's like the gotta have thing. Thing I could do without.
What could you do without?
Hot take. I don't really like mashed potatoes that much.
Really?
They're very hit or miss.
Wow. Is it like more butter the better, or no butter, or
I like them.
What about garlic mashed potatoes? No.
I like them pretty like whipped, like almost like the box style.
Okay.
But you can't make them homemade.
You don't want them like that. Lumpy?
No, not really.
Gotcha.
So mashed potatoes aren't really it for me.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's it for today's show.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you next week.
No. IndyCar, a lot to get to.
I would say it gets better, but we're going to talk litation and stuff, so I don't know if it's going to get better.
We'll try to avoid the going in depth into the litigation.
There's plenty of stories out there. If you if you have insomnia, you can go out and read some of this stuff, but we're not going to.
So the story, Alex Palou admitted breach of contract as he's trying to mitigate the damages that he's owed to McLaren. Again, McLaren saying that Palou owes them at least $23 million in losses. Again, that's everything from commercial partners to Chevrolet and promotional opportunities, McLaren's reserve F1 test driver, staffing, like run the gamut on down. A lot of categories. That's how they came up with that number. Does it seem absurdly high? Yes.
But it's kind of, you ask for the world and then hope that you get half of it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of what's going on here.
So I think the thing that is most fascinating in all of this, one, he admitted that he breached the contract. That is interesting in the sense that more likely to have some sort of settlement here because we keep getting more information on this. I mean, it was a 20-page response by Palou's team. And this is like the more info that leaks out, the worse. Like, you don't want this as a team. You don't want this sensitive information getting out there.
Right. So
him admitting that is a way for things to move forward. It wouldn't shock me if we have this all wrapped up prior to the season starting. I mean, hopefully they'll take care of all this stuff. But I think the real question here is one of the elements. So we talked about that $23 million, $400,000 advance on his 2024 salary. That's part of the money. Okay. McLaren not seeking repayment of legal fees. It says it covered for Palou. And last year's fight, ironically, against Ganassi, of course. Yeah. But McLaren contends Palou signed 2 contracts. First with McLaren Racing, as the F1 reserve driver, and then the separate deal with Arrow McLaren to compete in IndyCar, while also serving as the F1 backup driver. So I think the real number that's fascinating to me, McLaren seeking nearly $15.5 million in lost revenue under official partner agreements with sponsors NTT Data and General Motors. Again, they anticipated Palou would be the guy. He's not. Including $7 million in revenue and prize money from IndyCar itself. Now, that is an absurdly high number.
Yeah.
$7 million in revenue and prize money. I mean, you win what? $1 million if you win the championship. The leader circles roughly 1.1, 1.2 million. There are race bonuses, but if you win a race, it's a $50,000 bonus, excluding the Indy 500. Obviously, that's a lot more money. So I don't know where they're getting that $7 million figure. It's kind of absurd. But the thing I find interesting is the contention of lost revenue with NTT Data. So is there any chance because of, let's see, Linus Lundqvist, who has announced he's moving to the American Legion car, where Palou was at last year, last couple years. Is there any chance that NTT Data is switching back to Chip Ganassi Racing for 2024? I mean, NTT Data was on McLaren F1, right?
Yes.
On their cars. And obviously with Felix Rosenqvist, who since moved on.
And you wouldn't think that was a 1-year deal, though, would you?
No.
But I don't know.
I mean, it was wasn't it a 2-year deal? I mean, because Palou had American Legion, right, in 22 as well, I think.
Yeah. I think so. Interesting. I wouldn't initially. I'm just like, no. But then I guess you start thinking about it and potentially that would just add another wrinkle to this whole thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I guess that's the thing I find interesting if there's a shot. Again, pure speculation. I have nothing to back this up. I just find it really fascinating that that's a factor. And is it because NTT Data is going away from the team and that's why they're seeking those damages? Like, why else would you mention the sponsor?
Yeah.
Like, I get that you have the partnership agreement, but wouldn't the sponsor just connect with a different driver? And I get they're expecting that driver who comes with maximum value because of his success in the series. I just find that part fascinating.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but hopefully the majority of this back and forth legal stuff, they're going to settle. They'll settle out of court for some amount of money that's not what McLaren's asking for, but how much lower will it be? We'll see. But I just hope all of this is behind us.
You're right on the 1-year part. So Palou was with NTT Data in 2022 for the Indy 500, for example. So it was just last year. But also, didn't they come over for Palou, right? Like,
true.
Because remember that deal had seemingly been wrapped up well in advance.
Apparently.
I don't know.
We'll see.
That's the element that I find to be the potential wild card in all of this.
I just would think that NTT is happy to have a presence in Formula One. You go back to Ganassi, you don't have that, but I don't know. I'm not in those boardrooms.
No, I'm not either. we don't have that kind of knowledge, and that's okay.
That's perfectly fine with us.
But that's just the one little part, and of course Palou thought, I mean, the whole reason why he left is he thought he was in line for an F1 ride. I mean, that's great, but did we really think that was, I mean, when they signed Oscar Piastri, like that should have been all you needed to know.
But this is what Formula One teams do. They string drivers along and they make them reserve drivers and test drivers and promise stuff to IndyCar drivers. That's just what teams do. McLaren's able to do that because they can say, hey, stay with it, blah, blah, or be a reserve guy, be a test guy, be this, go F2. They just want to keep the maximum amount of talent controlled. And that's obviously what they were doing with Alex Palou by dangling that Formula One. Right. There had to be a lot of things happen. The first several people needed to not come through for McLaren for them to consider Alex Palou at any point, in my opinion.
Now, Nathan Brown of the Indy Stars says within this, McLaren team claims it was forced to renegotiate a multi-year sponsorship contract with NTT Data, in which Palou is listed as one of 3 drivers to be part of the team's future in order for the contract to be valid. That's straight from his article on IndyStar.com. Obviously, the ties between Palou and NTT Data go back to his days with Ganassi. That makes sense. And they're claiming that they had to reduce NTT Data's annual sponsor fee and other benefits. They're having to offer to the sponsor free of charge in order to keep executives happy. Because, again, they were expecting Palou.
Right. Okay, I mean, I get that aspect of it, but I don't know if NTT Data, how are they treating the Alex Palou thing? I mean, I can't imagine they're happy with Alex Palou because they're like, hey, we came over here to be with you, and then you leave. Yeah. So I don't know what loyalty NTT Data is going to look at Alex Palou, considering he turned his back effectively on them just as he did McLaren.
It's a lot of money at stake. I mean, $7 million, like in that aspect, which is a number being thrown around as far as the lost revenues, which, again, everything from sponsorship, prize money, merchandise sales, name, image, likeness, the fact that it's a 2-time IndyCar champion who's more well-known than David Malukas, let's be honest, the guy who's in that seat. But I don't know does it really add up to that much? Like you said, they'll negotiate this stuff. I just find this aspect of it fascinating because we probably won't get a number for what they settle for.
No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of comes out. I could see maybe them saying they settled for significantly less or around whatever. Maybe we don't get an exact number, but it's definitely not going to be what McLaren's asking for.
And probably won't be that close.
Probably not.
No. Now, I really want to know where that $400,000 went.
Oh man, it's in the
Pallou's lawyers say that it didn't go to him, didn't go to Alpa Racing USA, which is like his essentially his business identity, but went to an unnamed separate Spanish company that's still operated by Palou.
Okay. We'll take it if it's just floating out there.
Yeah.
Nobody wants it. We'll take
us.
it. Yeah. We'll send you all the stickers we possibly can for $400,000.
Yeah.
Send you 400,000 stickers.
I hope we could get more stickers, just at cost, right?
Yeah, I would think. You would think.
Yeah.
You want to make a bulk order? Yes, indeed. We want to buy 400,000.
Maybe $1 million?
Hey.
I would hope it would go better than that. But again, there's plenty of articles online. I just thought of like some interesting elements of this that may be worth visiting for this lawsuit and what it means. Again, a lot of this stuff over my head, but worth taking a look at it. Worth taking a look at this story too. So these two stories are connected, and this will be kind of the focus of this episode. So the first bit of news, and we've heard good things on this over the last, several weeks or so, but the signs are pointing to yes, the IndyCar in Argentina will happen. The last update was a couple weeks ago. IndyCar in good shape to run an exhibition race there in 2024. That's from Mark Miles. That was prior to the Argentina election. Doesn't seem like, though, from recent interviews that I've seen, that the Argentinian presidential election, would have any impact on what they would do, but they're going to try to wrap things up, according to Miles, in January. 9 points round end of the season, early October. That's the plan. That's what Miles has said on the record and continues to say on the record. It'll likely be at Autodromo Termas de Rio Hondo in Santiago del Estero. Dorna Sports, who does MotoGP, they worked on an extension for the circuit there, and OSD Group, which Dorna worked with, they're not affiliated as a promoter with IndyCar's return. Instead, it'll be the local government in Santiago, which owns the circuit, will be involved with a private group that includes Ricardo Juncos in promoting that event.
What we haven't gotten any indication on is whether this would be a one-off or multiple seasons. The
rumor is that it's a one-off,
which was what we talked about, I think, last episode. But if you look at Mark Miles is in trying to read between the lines with the quote that he gave Marshall Pruitt talking about Argentina, said, I don't know if we're in the red zone or just inside the 50, but I think it's quite feasible, even for the off season, the post-championship part of the 2024 calendar. He didn't say post-championship part of the end of the season, or he specifically said 2024 calendar. He didn't say, an annual post-championship race in Argentina. Is that indicative of maybe just being one event, a one and done? Are we looking too much into it? Is there pushback from teams and saying, hey, we'll go to Argentina once, but we're not going to do this every year?
And that seems to be a factor in all of this too, is the teams.
Some teams don't want to go.
They don't want to go, and others are like, why don't we go every year? Why is this just a one-time event?
Well, I think it sounds like for Mark Miles is based on the money up for grabs. If they do this, if less teams go, then there's more money up for grabs for other teams. So conceivably, if let's say, for instance, Ganassi decided they weren't going to go. And I could see Chip Ganassi being like this. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's not a part of a championship. It's just costing us money. It doesn't make sense for us. If Ganassi says they're not going, then that could eventually, you shrink the amount of cuts you have to make to the pie for the money. And maybe that's an infusion of money for Coyne or Carpenter or Foyt, right? So you would hope everybody goes, but it sounds like it's not unanimous in terms of the team owners wanting to go. And if there was anybody I would pick that would kind of look at this and go, I don't care, it would kind of be Chip Ganassi in my mind.
So in order to entice people to go, if that event does move forward, they are, according to Racer and Mark Miles, they're looking at teams having subsidized travel costs, increased payments for those who've earned the 22 leader circle spots. And that's kind of more of the incentive where it'd be a bit of a bonus. I would hope there would be like 2 wildcard entries, right? Like, give us at least 24 entries for this and have 2 wildcard entries. I think that would be good. Is
it enough financial incentive for teams to put an extra car in? I'm not sure. I'm kind of open-ended question. We'll see. I don't know. Would they encourage that? I think if it's a full grid and everybody goes, you probably don't. But if you have 1 or 2 teams opt out, then maybe you do kind of open it up. But every team is in a different position in terms of where they're at monetarily. Some people are going to look at this as a tremendous opportunity. Other people are going to look at it as more of an expense, even if they get paid to go. And you just have to deal with the logistics. And if you take, again, Chip Ganassi, if he looks at it like, we could make this much money, but it's just a pain in the ass, then maybe they opt out. So I don't know. I think there's still a lot to be decided with the Argentina race. It just doesn't feel to me like a sure thing even now.
And another factor that motorsport.com's Joey Barnes brings up, NBC TV deal expires at the end of the 2024 season.
So who would broadcast it is what you're saying.
Now, if NBC renews, obviously it'd be on NBC or USA or Peacock or what have you. But if not, it could potentially be on the next TV partner.
So the first race on the CW for the IndyCar series. Just saying.
Yeah. It
I don't know.
Very well could be. I think there's a typo. It says our agreement goes through calendar year 23. It's obviously calendar year 24.
Calendar 24.
But
not the January through December calendar. They're talking about the race calendar.
Yes.
For IndyCar. Gotcha. unless they put a provision in there that says, yes, the season will end technically after the Argentina race. But they'd have to add that race before they try to tackle that description.
So that's another aspect of this that to be on the radar. And then this other story that came out is IndyCar, again, still working on their next TV deal. We saw NASCAR come out with theirs.
NASCAR getting paid.
They got paid. They're going streaming. What else is new? 5 Amazon Prime only races, 5 races on TNT, and then 14 and 14 on Fox properties and NBC properties. But I think the key thing is they're only 9
network races.
9 network races. Is that right?
Yes.
Total. Yeah.
Which I'm like, people are like, but like they're making $7 billion on this deal. So
and
NASCAR's
they're
making
getting
its
the
money.
cable money while it still exists.
Yeah. Now they're getting paid by Warner Brothers Discovery. What deal is that?
So that's the TNT.
Okay.
That's the TNT aspect.
Okay. And could be part of the stream that Discovery is now with
Max, which used to be HBO Max. And so it'll be on Bleacher Report Sports and on the Max stream, along with obviously races on TNT, Amazon Prime, Fox,
you're gonna
FS1.
You're going to need all the
NBC,
channels and
USA,
all the streams.
Peacock.
Yes, because they said what was the second half qualifying and practices were going to be on a stream. Was it Peacock?
Probably Peacock. Because NBC has the second half of the schedule.
But it's, you're going to have to get you're going to have to make sure you get all the channels and all the streaming apps if you're a completionist, if you need to see every practice, every qualifying session and every race in NASCAR, you're going to be chasing it all over the place next year and beyond. We'll start in 2025. But you know what? For $7.7 billion, NASCAR is going to make you do it. And if IndyCar would even get what would you say, 1% of that?
No, 1%.
If IndyCar would even get 1% of that, I'd be like all day.
Because that is what, $77 million per year?
Could you imagine?
Can you imagine IndyCar getting $77 million per year on a team? That would like triple
why it's
nearly quadruple their TV deal.
That's why it's so absurd to me. And I know, yes, there's more cup races and all that stuff. It's so absurd to me that IndyCar gets, what would you say, a third of the viewership per race?
Yeah.
And yet they're getting less than 1%.
A third to it. Well, it depends on, if it's a regular IndyCar Network TV race, you're looking at a little over 1 million TV viewers, right? A typical Cup Network TV race, you're looking at between 3 and 4 million. It's very inconsistent.
Yeah. I would say probably if you averaged it out, if you averaged out the seasons, this past season is probably overall a third of the viewers, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be worth, if you multiplied it over more races and all that stuff, you could say, okay, maybe 10% of what NASCAR gets. But they're not even getting 1% of what NASCAR gets. That's why it's so amazing to me is what is it? Is it NASCAR being overpaid? Is it IndyCar being underpaid? Both?
I think it's both.
I think so too. So I think that's why you need to be aggressive in following the money. And I know people are like, well, they need to stay with NBC, blah, blah, blah. If CW, for example, comes to you for $60 million.
CW threw for what's currently branded as the Xfinity Series.
Right.
Where it's every practice session, every qualifying session, every race, all on CW, which is network TV.
Yes.
Mind you. Their investment in sports, I mean, their their ACC college football slate is wrapped up. Their ACC college basketball slate starts this weekend. Like they're making a play,
which we talked about. And you could say probably Xfinity race ratings and IndyCar race ratings are pretty comparable.
Yes, they are.
And the CW annually, beginning in 2025, is going to pay for the Xfinity Series rights $115 million. So if they're comparable in viewership, if CW makes a call to Mark Miles and says, we will pay you $115 million annually for IndyCar, I just don't think you can turn that down. I don't care what NBC says, right?
Oh yeah. I don't care where it's at. Like if you're IndyCar and you're at a spot where you can go from the figure thrown out now is between 15 and 20 million, right? Is that
yes.
Is that the latest number?
Yes, I would. Yes. at best.
Like
20 million, I think, is the number that's being thrown around.
Yeah, there's not really a big number out there, but they did hire Endeavor to help with that, and that came out a few months ago, and that's key to remember that Endeavor's going to be a part in this role. Again, the rumor is $20 million per year. I mean, you get that to 50, you at least feel like you're making some ground.
And then it's still far away off from 115 million. I mean, would you, in your mind, if you were guaranteed 115 million a year on CW, but you had to sacrifice the broadcast in terms of lower quality, let's say it wasn't as good in terms of the announcers or the quality, the lead-ins, obviously.
You do whatever it takes.
Still going CW, aren't you?
Yes, you do whatever it takes as long as
the check
it's
clears.
that, but also that it's a shorter-term deal like they've done with NBC with those 3-year deals.
True.
Which I think is smart because there's a lot of change coming. You don't want to get locked in. I think NASCAR, they got paid, but they're locked in for such a long time. Who knows what cable TV looks like in 2031?
Yeah,
right?
Even Xfinity, I think, is a 7-year deal with the CW. So you're talking 3, maybe 4 years max. But I know there's a certain amount of loyalty within IndyCar to NBC, and for good reason, because they've done, even the criticisms they've done a really good job, NBC by and large. But man, if CW comes at you with $115 million and everything's on, right? If you're talking qualifying, which isn't on TV, there's not a single qualifying session outside of the 500 that's on regular TV. And if CW came and we will show at least every qualifying session and every race live and maybe some practices, but if those are still streamed, whatever. But man, that's a tough sell for me to say, yeah, we got to go back to the CW.
And for the first time
back to NBC, I'm sorry.
And for the first time in a long time, IndyCar's in a good spot because they had a 2% increase from 2022 as far as viewership. Most watched season since 2011. Highest share for the Indy 500 since 2008. So those are all selling points. The problem is the TV deal for next year, just 9 of 17 races on NBC, down from 13 in 2023. 2 races on Peacock as opposed to 1. 6 on USA Network. I believe there were 3 last season. So you got a worse deal. So unless your Indy 500 rating is huge, which having Kyle Larson in it should help.
Should help, yeah.
I don't know if it's going to help.
Probably going down next year.
Yeah.
Because of where those races are.
I think it's going to take a mega TV rating for the Indy 500 to continue that momentum. I mean, Kyle Larson moves the needle a little bit, right, among racing fans, but
sure.
What would it take, like a Lewis Hamilton or a Max Verstappen to race the Indy 500 to really get the kind of, and look, that's never going to happen, but that would be the move that would.
You talking globally?
Yeah. Well, even in America too. Yeah. Like what would be the driver competing?
Chase Elliott.
That would get
he's
buzz.
The most popular driver in NASCAR. Probably him would get the most buzz, I think, within the States, because no matter, even if you brought Max Verstappen over, it could be bigger globally.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be bigger than Chase Elliott. But make no mistake, even Chase Elliott, the draw, we're not talking Dale Jr. popularity here.
No.
Okay. So I'm not sure even with Chase Elliott in the race, if you're going to see what would you say, like a 20%, 25% increase? I don't think you'd see that. I think at the heyday of Dale Jr., if all of a sudden Dale Jr. decided to do the 500, I'm thinking you're talking 30% increase, in my opinion.
I think you could. I think heyday, we're talking what, 2008?
In Junior's heyday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the prime of his career in Cup. Yeah. If he raced the 500, you're looking at a huge boost.
Yeah, it'd probably double what it was the year prior.
Probably. But I just don't think, even with Chase Elliott, the most popular driver in NASCAR right now, he doesn't have that impact of a Dale Jr. Not a Jeff Gordon in his prime, Tony Stewart in his prime. It's just not that draw. But for IndyCar, it's going to need a mega number for the 500, to your point, to show any type of increase. They can squeeze the numbers and make it sound good here or there, but if you're just looking at flat total offense, a total audience delivery, race to race, with the schedule that they have next year in terms of Peacock races and on on cable instead of network, it'd be tough just to manipulate those numbers in a way that says, hey, we're better off than 2023.
Meanwhile, we got so sidetracked. Where are we at? Okay, here we go. So we'll tie in the TV stuff in a moment because there's some good stuff from Mark Miles talking about what's to come. But I think we got to mention this first. And we're starting to talk about the Argentina event, but also Mark Miles says the IndyCar is looking to make a similar impact as far as think of F1 coming to Miami and Vegas, NASCAR in Chicago. But IndyCar is looking to make a similar impact. New undisclosed venue as soon as 2025. That from racer.com. Miles didn't win. I didn't buy this reasoning.
Well, you tried to get excited about it, and then he had one sentence. He confirmed that there was something going on, but then he's like, but I want to go back and reiterate, and went into...
Yeah, he went into the move in 2023 from Belle Isle to downtown Detroit around the Renaissance Center was that sort of major change, and it definitely had a much bigger impact in Detroit than we had before.
I mean, agreed, but...
Yes, in Detroit.
It's in Detroit, but we're talking about...
And then secondarily, he says... gracefully moving Nashville next year downtown and making it the finale. Maybe that's in between. No, I would say that's huge. Racing IndyCars on Broadway in Nashville, season finale. I think that's huge.
I would agree. I think it's huge for the series.
Think about the eyeballs.
Right. But it's still not Cup on the streets of Chicago and F1 in Vegas. It's not. I quite frankly don't think it's close, to be honest.
I think it's a big step for IndyCar, but yes, it does not compare to those other events.
You tell people, NASCAR's racing on the streets of Chicago. What? NASCAR's or F1's racing on the streets of the Strip. What? When you tell people, hey, IndyCar's down there racing in the streets of Nashville, you're like, that's cool, but it's not like...
It's not the same.
Jaw dropping.
So what... Obviously, I don't see how IndyCar can compete with those, right? So, like, what does this look like? He says, but we're working on at least one that I think people would see as a high impact, a very different opportunity for 2025 in the United States that it's too early to talk about, but we're certainly looking for big events and big partners in the process.
Okay.
So what would that be?
So if I'm looking at the map of the United States, okay, and I'm trying to think what's an absolute huge event sitting out there that we're not recognizing?
New York City.
I mean, that's the mega, right? If we're talking,
that's the untouched, like F1's tried it, IndyCar race in the Meadowlands, that doesn't count.
But it's similar to what Chicago was, because when that rumors first started, there's no way that Cup pulls this off, right? And they did. If that's the mega event that New York would be if IndyCar would pull that off. So let's put that at the top as the apex. Like there's nothing bigger than this.
Yeah, nothing is topping that.
Would you say
Boston and Philly would fall right behind to me?
Guess.
Remember, they tried Boston.
I know. Oh, yeah, we do know that. I was saying San Francisco, you can't race in the streets of San Francisco. It's too steep and all that stuff. Like that wouldn't work. I really don't think. I wanted to say New Orleans, but like the French Quarter, you're not racing around the French Quarter because they're not wide streets or anything like that.
A street race.
I would say Miami, but the Formula One's there. I mean, you tell me, what am I missing? LA? You're already at Long Beach. That doesn't make sense. The one that
Dallas, Denver.
If they're going to try to sell to me that Denver's a mega event, I would like to see Denver come back as a street race. That'd be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But don't try to put it in the stratosphere of Chicago or Vegas. But then again, Mark Miles is trying to tell me that Detroit was a big deal. And I was the one leading the charge that said it wasn't getting as much praise as it should. But even I'm like, Detroit is not Chicago. Detroit is not Vegas.
I mean, downtown Atlanta? I don't know. I'm just trying to think of...
Washington, D.C.? There's no way. But then again, we said that
would fall
Chicago.
In the secondary tier just below New York with like a Boston or Philly.
I would say if you could pull off D.C. with monuments and stuff in the background, like I would put that on par with New York.
Yes.
I would think that'd be pretty damn cool.
Like if you're racing around streets that are, on near the Washington Monument, the National Mall, things like, yes, exactly.
But it's like you can't close off streets and stuff for a month in Washington, D.C. Like, because it has to be in the event of an emergency or something. They can't have something like that go on, right? I mean, I don't know that exactly, but I'm just presuming. I've watched enough movies and read enough books to know that you can't just have whole sections of Washington, D.C. closed off for an event for a month. And just in case something happens, you got to get diplomats everywhere. You
do what they did in Las Vegas. You do what they've done in Nashville, where you're not closing until like almost the week of, almost
true,
the days
but it's like,
of.
If you're not dealing with this in any other locale where you're saying, well, if something happens and we need to get the president of the United States in the air as soon as possible and get him to Air Force One, we can't afford to have this bridge and this street closed off. Those are things you're not dealing with anywhere else. I'm just thinking doomsday events that you can't possibly have roads closed or a race going on and all that stuff. But I would put New York City and Washington, D.C. as those apex events. Anything else that you would put up there?
Yes. There's one other event. You go to the Irish Hills of Michigan, Brooklyn, Michigan, for the return of a 500-mile race at Michigan International Speedway.
Do I have a button to shut your mic off over here?
You teed me up for that. I was waiting for you going to ask me to give it, because I'd kept that in this whole time. I was ready.
Would you put like a Seattle? Would you put a Hawaii?
Hawaiian Super Prix? Yeah, I mean, Hawaii would be...
Like Honolulu.
Yeah, no, Hawaii would count.
Would you put that on the level of Washington and New York? Or would that be the tier below?
Tier below.
Okay. I would agree. It would be cool. I'm not putting it up with New York and Washington, D.C. But those are it. Like, don't tease something, Mark Miles, and then come at us with Denver. Okay?
A street race in Denver, a street race in Pittsburgh. No, like, that's exciting.
Those
are new events.
Yes, but
it's not on that tier.
Yeah, not on that tier. And I just don't think, quite frankly, IndyCar has the pull to pull off a New York or a Washington, D.C.
All it takes is having some connection to someone in a position of power to get it done.
Yeah.
Do you, if it's a street race in Jersey City, does that still count?
No, Jersey City is an armpit compared to New York City. No, it doesn't.
I'm just saying, like, that's.
Here's my pushback on the potential is NASCAR had to put up a hell of a lot of money for Chicago to at least get it started. All the hoops they had. F1 had to put up a even more exponential amount of money.
Probably $500 million when it's all said and done.
There is no way that IndyCar has the money to pull off a Chicago or Formula One purely because of the money involved in investment by NASCAR and Formula One respectively, which makes me wonder if IndyCar is even capable of pulling off a coup like that, because the investment monetarily would probably completely be out of their price range. Unless you got some serious financial backers.
Oh, I mean, Roger Penske is a billionaire after all.
I don't see, he's also not a guy that says, hey, here's $300 million to make this event happen.
He's not going to spend his money like that.
Yes. We'd like him to, but not our money.
Yeah, no, I don't see it. I don't see New York City. I mean, like you said, the way to make it work is you can't even, Brooklyn, maybe. I mean, that would count, right?
I mean, yeah, if you can race over a bridge in Nashville, you can race over the Brooklyn Bridge, right? Can you even drive over the Brooklyn Bridge, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was just pedestrians.
Oh, no, it's both.
Okay.
I actually walked over it back in April. So.
And you looked at it and said, this would make a great bridge to drive over.
The views were pretty cool. As I was walking across, I'm like, oh, wow, there's Pier 57 where, ESPN has their stuff in New York City. Like, I saw it. Like, that's it.
Definitely would be cool. I just don't think IndyCar can pull it off. But I almost don't want more of these stories, because you're just going to get more and more excited about what it could be. And whatever it is, it's going to be disappointing. if it's Denver, if it's San Antonio, if it's whatever, you're going to be like, that's nice and all. But the only three I would accept as holy crap, they pulled it off would be New York, Washington, D.C., and Hawaii.
Yeah, since it's United States based, I got to correct myself. Pier 17, not Pier 57. The Seaport District.
Oh.
In New York City.
Is that like off on the Hudson River?
Yeah,
or is it on the other side of
it's on the river in the sense that it's an old like seaport terminal, and then they just have office buildings on it.
Gotcha.
And it's near the Brooklyn Bridge.
Gotcha. I'm familiar with up like where the Intrepid is, the aircraft carrier and stuff on the Hudson River, stuff like that. You know,
so this is off the East River.
Yes, it's on the other side of the the island or the peninsula, basically.
Yeah. So anyway, New York City would be the one, and you know what? I wouldn't even care if it happens to be in Jersey. I'd still give them the pass because they pulled it off.
They could do the 5 boroughs Grand Prix, and they race through each borough.
Good luck with that. I don't know how they'd pull that one off. It could be
a longer track than Spa.
I don't know how you do that geographically.
I would be immediately kicked out of meetings because like Mark Miles would be like, all right, bring your best ideas. Let's talk about it. I'm like, all right, here's what I got.
Let's do all 5 boroughs of New York City.
I got it drawn up on a Google Earth. Okay, it's a 13.6 mile circuit.
So do 20 laps.
Yeah, we're closing down the entirety of all 5 boroughs. Call the mayor. Yeah, good luck with that.
Oh, wow.
You'd be like, get the hell out of my office. That lasts one day.
With that, so the other note with Mark Miles, so they're working, of course, on the next media deal. They're happy with NBC, said NBC is eager to extend with us and to continue to be our principal partner. He told motorsport.com, obviously, they're looking around. The key thing is he said 3 to 4 partners.
Prospective partners?
Yes.
Okay. Get my
obviously, NBC here. Number 1.
Would you think Fox would have reached out?
No.
Would you think CBS would have reached out?
Yes.
Or are you thinking ABC, ESPN reached out?
Yes.
And you're thinking CW?
CW or, which side note, 100 Days to Indy will return in 2024. And they're also looking at a scripted television series in the works as well.
Explain this to me. Like, what's the concept of a scripted series?
So just like a show. I mean, I don't know, a show about IndyCar. Kind of
but
like
I know what we're
shows
talking
about
about
NASCAR.
Well, I know, but is it like a contest show? Is it a
no? It'd be like a
drama,
sitcom or a drama, that kind of thing. I don't know.
What was that show that Kevin James did? That was around for like one season. Was it like 1 season and 2 seasons or something like that?
The Crew
didn't work?
Was it on Netflix?
I think it was on Netflix. Yeah. I'm just kind of wondering, like, if that didn't work out for NASCAR. Kevin James is pretty well known.
But do we think the other one is CW, or do we think there's a third player like Apple TV or Amazon Prime?
That's a good point. I have a hard time thinking CW is not in the conversation in some capacity. I mean, they're spending money more than anybody right now, at least in terms of new products bringing in. And I can't imagine they're not looking at IndyCar in some capacity. But I have NBC written down, CBS, ESPN, ABC, CW, Apple TV, you say, maybe.
Amazon Prime, maybe.
Pretty much it, isn't it? I mean, I'm not thinking Hulu's doing anything like that.
No.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else. Paramount. No. I don't know. We'll see. Three or 4. I think there's 3 over the air, and I think maybe there's a streamer that's interested.
Yeah, I think so. I think one has to be a streamer. The 3 OTAs. I feel pretty safe in that it's NBC, CW, and I would say ABC, ESPN, to be honest. I'd throw out CBS. Yeah.
Well, because SRX is not on CBS anymore, right?
Correct. That's on ESPN.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So that's where we're at. And with all that to say, if you agree or disagree, and I'm sure you disagree with our New York City 5-borough street race idea, let us know. You can reach us across many different platforms. The website, newtrackrecordpodcast.com. While you're there, sign up for the email list. It's free. You'll get emails for when there are new episodes, special announcements. You can also check out, we have t-shirts and stickers for sale on the store page on the website. You can email us, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. On Twitter/X and on Instagram, our handle is IndyCar Podcast. On Facebook, just search for New Track Record. And as always, you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/New Track Record. Thanks to Xavier, Rob, and others for their support, starting at just $1 a month. And you can always download each and every episode for free on your favorite podcasting platform, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, all for free. All right, mailbag time, and we have some stuff to get to this week. Not a ton, but enough to keep it interesting, for sure. And a couple of comments from last week in regards to, or yeah, I guess 2 weeks ago in Vegas. Mom 2X over 2002. This on Twitter. Reading and watching all the TikToks on the fiasco called an F1 race practice in Las Vegas. We'll never see fans escorted out by cops at an IndyCar race or practice or NASCAR race or practice. If both IndyCar and NASCAR were smart, they would use this fiasco to their advantage, offer free passes to race for fans that were kicked out of seats they paid for, or free pit passes and discounted race day seats. Problem is, everything took care of itself by the...
It didn't start off well.
No, but it seemed to go fine. One.
But the race was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the racing was good. It was between the atmosphere and the on-track racing was as good of a race as we've seen all year. And every time they did a wide shot, it continued to astound me. Like, this is pretty damn cool that they pulled it off. And I know it's easy to kind of pile on Formula One for good reason, this, that, and the other. It didn't start off well. I'm not putting as much on them with the manhole cover. That's happened before.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. It's mainly of course, the fans being escorted out with the security basically was like, we're done working for the day.
The ultimate problem is, did they basically play themselves by jacking up the prices and then there wasn't the demand that they expected, and so people who went will be like, I overpaid for this. Yeah, it was cool, but I won't pay that much. And even if prices go down, which I think they will.
Which they will, yeah.
That people won't come back. I
do think it would benefit not having it every year. I think it would be cool to have an every other year that be an event.
Also, I mean, it had great TV ratings considered it started at 1 a.m. Eastern time. I mean,
yeah, for
just
everybody saying, oh my gosh, what are they doing starting so late?
It started at 11 p.m. Eastern even, I think.
Yeah, which they already said
a much bigger audience.
For next year, if there's a next year race, yeah, move it up. But I do think that it is a massive inconvenience for Vegas, and it's not like that's their event for the year. They have stuff going on. It's Vegas, right? So it's more of a hindrance for more people than usual for a street race. I just think it doesn't have to be annually. And then it continues to keep its cachet a little bit if it's not every year. But I thought they, obviously, other than the FP2 issue, they pulled it off, and it was pretty cool, I will admit.
I think it looked great. I must admit. Now,
I know there's some people just want to.
I thought this was going to be F1's downfall. This event, we'll see. But despite the early woes and all the negative press leading in, a lot of positive press going out of it.
There was. I mean, first time event. There's always going to be some negatives. The FP2 issue, a big one, obviously, but he always works that stuff out. And sometimes you need things to go bad to make sure they don't again. I thought it was a very well done event considering the logistics of everything. And like I said, I never cease to be amazed. It could have been the 50th overhead shot or wide shot going in. I was still astounded at them pulling it off. It was pretty awesome.
This from Poet Shevchenko on the IndyCar video game topic tryout. This idea: if you buy the game itself, you have to start an Indy Next. If you pay extra for the game, you can start an IndyCar directly. Let's call this the Ride Buyer Edition. If you already own F1 2024, start an IndyCar.
Yeah,
if only there was a game.
You need a game first to even bring that up. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
One of our fans, Dopazo Rodrigo, I think in Argentina, we kind of joked like, is this person real? Because he was complimenting us last week, but saying yes,
be a real person.
We're real people. I think you're becoming a fan favorite because you two sound like real folks with honest opinions, not an agenda. By the way, I couldn't help noticing that Justin sounds a lot like football entrepreneur Rob McElhenney.
Really?
I can picture it.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have you watched the show on Hulu? I can't. Welcome to Wrexham.
No, I have not.
So that's
yet.
where, like, obviously he's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Right. Yes.
But now he's back in popularity due to that.
There's worse people to be compared to. I'll take it.
For sure. Continuing on in the mailbag, and we have, if you missed the Peacock Black Friday deal, which we tweeted out, sorry. Hopefully you get another chance on that. Some other tweets and notes from people. So I posted this, and there are too many GIFs, and GIFs are hard to describe on an audio, but best GIF, lawyers seeing all those billable hours, talking about the Palou lawsuit. There are a couple of really good tweets, though, text-wise, people sent us. From run_mark_run, makes up for all the non-billable time we spent arguing with the yellow shirts in May. Thought that was funny. That's pretty good.
It keeps on giving.
Yes.
If you've been to the Indianapolis 500, you get that. If you haven't, you won't. But as soon as you go for the first time or the 50th time, you'll understand.
It's just the way it is. There's always some yellow shirt trying to get you in trouble. And like, I'm not even doing anything. Like, what did I do?
Yeah, it's very, very true. Nothing else to say about it.
Yeah.
We've all been on the receiving end of a yellow shirt.
Oh, yes. And a whistle.
And we've all been on the receiving end of a yellow shirt and a whistle and really not knowing what we're doing wrong. We're like, I stand like, what do you want from me? Take the whistle out of your mouth and talk to me instead of blowing it at me and pointing to me. We've all been on the receiving end if you've been at IMS.
So we talked about this story about the similar impact race, and we made our guesses. So a few replies. Jeremy from HBG. The Shipshawana Grand Prix with Starship featuring Mickey Thomas as a musical act at the Blue Gate. If you're from Northern Indiana or the Fort Wayne area, you'll get that joke. You'll understand. If not, you'll have to look this stuff up. But that is a great suggestion.
Yes, it absolutely is. If you know, you know.
Hunter's Way 67 said, I'm calling it now, Philadelphia Street Race in 25. Yeah, I think that fits that secondary tier. DeGuerra said, we're going back to Texas, baby. Fort Worth, Dallas Street Race. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Daniel SEM 2004. I'll keep holding my breath, just like waiting for a video game and an international race.
You wouldn't do it through Dealey Plaza in Dallas, would you? Would that be a little tacky?
It's not really.
The start-finish line is the X marked where JFK was shot? No, probably not. That would be my day 2 idea in Mark Miles' office after the 5 boroughs thing. And he's like, what are you doing back? And I'm like, hold on. I got it. That'd be my thing. No, but I just don't think Dallas.
I don't know where there's like a good spot to do it.
Have you ever been? I've never been to Dallas. So
Arlington would be the more logical spot because it's in between kind of both. And you can race around some stadiums. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels like a lot like Houston to me.
Yeah. Rob_McMahon said, hear me out, Hawaiian Super Prix.
We said that. I mean, I think
it's a good suggestion.
You have 2 on the mega list, and then I think my secondary would be Hawaii. That would be huge, I think. But remember, time difference. But that would be something you'd figure out after you got everybody to commit to that race.
Yes. And we have a few other tweets that I'm going to save for tweets of the week because they were that good.
Okay.
From our listeners.
Some homegrown tweets of the week is what you're saying. All right.
Time for news and notes, and let's rattle through these and
we've gone a long time.
Yeah.
For something we said, man, we don't know if we have a lot tonight.
Well, we went deep, like a deep dig on the guessing of the location.
We did.
Of that potential 2025 special race. Ryan Blaney, he would like to race in the Indy 500. He told Roger Penske. Obviously, Penske's kind of pumped the brakes on that. But Penske did say early ticket sales to the 500 reflect a high interest in Kyle Larson. No surprise there.
Cool to see. I saw the Daytona is already sold out, which is pretty impressive.
And Penske also said that Rick Hendrick approached him first about running Kyle Larson in the Indy 500. And Penske said we hadn't had the success for a couple of years for us to take on a 4th car. And then, of course, McLaren did.
McLaren hasn't had the success either.
No, they have not.
They had the cars. Do you think it is a one and done for Rick Hendrick at the 500?
No. Well, it's a 2-year thing for Larson. I mixed that up a while back.
Is it really?
It's a 2-year thing. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that this leads to bigger things within IndyCar for Rick Hendrick?
Yes.
Cool.
As long as it goes well.
Yeah. I mean, well, but not too well. I mean, you don't want him going out there and winning it.
No.
You need him leaving with some, I want more. And that's kind of the hope for both Larson and Hendrick.
Several announcements in Indy Lights, Indy Next, whatever you want to call it. Jonathan Brown, 7th driver confirmed for HMD Motorsports. We have Callum Hedge also confirmed for HMD Motorsports. We have 22 cars expected, according to Feeder Series Americas. That's the...
Seriously?
Yes. HMD, 10 cars. Andretti, 4. Abel, 3. Capen Juncos at 2. And then Jack William Miller, also announced for Miller Vinatieri Motorsports as well. The son of Dr. Jack Miller, the racing dentist. They will move up to Indy Lights as well.
So 10, is that more than HMD had last year? Didn't they have like 9?
I think so, yeah.
So they're expanding from 9 to 10.
Yeah.
22 cars would be astounding. That'd be great. Even if you lose 6 over the course of the season for funding, you're still putting 16 on the grid by the end of the season. That'd be pretty cool. 22 on the grid to start. That'd be amazing.
I'm all for it. We always get these high numbers teased out, though, and they never hit 20.
Yeah. If they hit 20, I think it's pretty darn impressive.
I would agree. I would be impressed by that. And then this ties in. So Jamie Chadwick, watching the Alabama-Auburn game, college football, for those unfamiliar in America.
She's on our TV screen.
Yeah, she's on a TV commercial for Apple. And pretty catchy. I think it's like a 30-second commercial, but she's featured.
Now, I only caught some of it because they had some auto. Was it her Formula E car or was it her Lights car?
Lights car.
Really? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. DHL on it or Apple? I thought it was yellow.
Yeah, but DHL, remember, they left as the sponsor. But either way, really, really cool to see that. Obviously, a good thing. And then in IndyCar, as far as drivers participating at the Rolex 24, Felix Rosenquist, add him to the list. Scott McLaughlin, add him to the list. Pato O'Ward, add him to the list. So a lot of drivers. You already have Tom Blomqvist, Scott Dixon, Joseph Newgarden, Colton Herta, Marcus Ericsson, Alexander Rossi, Kyle Kirkwood participating in along with Christian Rasmussen in different classifications. So it's about half the field.
Going back to Chadwick really quick, I hope that she develops and becomes a legit IndyCar driver because of the marketability. Apple already picking her up and she's Indy Lights. I hope she legit earns her way to IndyCar and doesn't get it purely because she's marketable, because I don't think that helps the sport grow. I do think it helps the sport grow if she's able to come in and be competitive. So I hope she continues to grow and maybe gets an opportunity in the next couple of years in IndyCar and makes the best of it.
Pato O'Ward, named the McLaren reserve driver, participated in FP1 at Abu Dhabi, then did the postseason test at Abu Dhabi after the season, second in that postseason test. Also, someone had a Pato O'Ward big head at the WWE Survivor Series, which that was the return of CM Punk. I don't follow wrestling, but apparently that was a really big deal.
Yeah, apparently it was a big deal. Was it down like in Texas or something, the event? I'm not even sure.
I'm not even sure. But either way, pretty cool. Pato obviously feeling confident about a potential move to IndyCar. Graham Rahal, partnership, Hendrickson International, which was the sponsor for Catherine Legg's Indy 500 effort in 2023. They will be the primary sponsor for Graham Rahal at Barber, Road America, and Portland this season.
Nice.
Team that's always finding new commercial partners. If only everyone had that level of dedication.
Graham's always grinding.
Yes. And then we have one of our favorite topics. Touch on this real quick because it seemed like a stretch on the article. I'm not going to lie. But hybrid implementation could lure a third OEM to IndyCar, according to Mark Miles.
That could.
Motorsportweek.com. So it's not on the author. It's more on Mark Miles saying that this could be something. But as far as the hybrids, he said, I would say that we are entirely focused on the hybrid, getting that on the track and having it be additive for our racing, improving the quality of our racing, and increasing the chances of us finding a third OEM that we'd like to find and bring in.
Yeah, no,
that's really all that's there.
Yeah, it's just basically, could this help? And he says, yeah, but there's
not going to hurt.
Nothing substantive there.
No, but obviously they're maxed out at 27, 28 entries for the season. They need that third OEM, and that's really the next step for IndyCar to take. Plain and simple.
As we've been saying for years, seemingly.
Yes. So that's the latest on a third OEM. And a couple other things to get to. Milwaukee 250 race tickets on sale for the doubleheader.
Yeah,
August
buy your
31st
tickets,
and
people.
1st.
You got Milwaukee, now you better damn well buy some
Yeah.
tickets.
Show up because everyone complains about, no Milwaukee. Well, it's here. And unfortunate, sad news, but motorsport journalist and well-known in Canada, Norris MacDonald, Canadian Motorsport Hall of Fame inductee, Norris MacDonald passed away. So he was kind of the godfather of covering Canadian motorsports.
He was, and occasionally we'd report on a story from Norris here that was like kind of
wacky rumor
and slash, he was always in tap with the Canadian side of IndyCar, and it's kind of unfortunately regressed with less and less Canadian drivers in the series, less and less races, of course, with just Toronto. But he was in the heyday of IndyCar / Canada. He was it, man, and he had a lot of good tidbits over the years.
All right, so that wraps up news and notes. Time now for tweets of the week, assuming we didn't miss anything. Did we miss anything?
Probably. But,
there was a lot to cover over the course of 2 weeks.
Yeah, hopefully we got all the highlights at the very least.
But yeah, I think we covered it. All right, tweets of the week, and it's from our own listeners because you guys had some good stuff. And I guess it's really tweets of the weeks because it's 2 weeks.
Right.
But all that to say, this from Plain Spades. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 243 times. That's in regards to third OEM news. And then this also on the third OEM news from Jeff Zerneski. It's the off season. We need at least one article on third OEM, international races, and bringing back Cleveland.
And the revamped Foyt engineering crew.
Yes.
Still waiting on that.
That too. All right. Time for our random split air driver of the week.
All right. So we're going to the fertile ground of 2005 and kart and going with Fabrizio Del Monte from Latina Lazio, which is in central Italy.
I was going to say, where is Lazio?
So he is from Italy, and he was 2 and done in the 2005 season. At Long Beach with Jensen Motorsport, was 16th to start the season, and then came back at Surfers Paradise with HVM Racing and finished 16th. 16th and 16th. He drove for 3 seasons in Formula 3000 in Europe before driving the Champ Car events in 2005. Says he had strong sponsorship, which helped. He had secured Midland's 3rd driver's seat for the 2006 San Marino Grand Prix, which was Formula One, when you had more than 2 drivers for each, right? You had up to 3 entries per team.
Mm-hmm.
Fell through due to lack of sponsorship for Formula One. His place was taken by Giorgio Mondini. Never heard of that guy.
I haven't either.
Del Monte was also to be the team's 3rd driver in the Hungarian Grand Prix. That didn't happen either. So never appeared in a Formula One race. Only 2 Champ Car events that season, 2005. Again, the 16th at Long Beach, 16th at Surfers, 2 and done for the Italian race car driver, Mr. Fabrizio Del Monte, this week's random split era driver of the week.
22 drivers entered into that San Marino Grand Prix, by the way.
Really?
And I recognize every name, but like 1.
Wow.
Schumacher won.
Shocker.
Fernando Alonso and Renault was 2nd. Juan Pablo Montoya in the McLaren Mercedes was 3rd. That was your podium. Felipe Massa, Kimi Räikkönen, Mark Webber, Jenson Button, Giancarlo Fisichella. They scored in the points. That's the top 8. Remember, top 8 back then.
Uh-huh.
And then Ralph Schumacher, 9th. Rubens Barrichello, 10th. Other notable names, Nico Rosberg in that race, Jacques Villeneuve, Scott Speed, David Coulthard, Takuma Sato.
Ooh.
Jarno Trulli. So
now the top 5, the constructor standings after this race, I think is fascinating. You look at McLaren, Ferrari, and then let's see, Honda, BMW, Sauber. Basically what you were looking at.
Yeah, I mean, that was a season where the cars were still beasts back then.
Oh, absolutely. Huge. So it went, actually, Renault was in first at that time. So So it went Renault, McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, Honda, Sauber, BMW Sauber. And interestingly, that 2006 San Marino Grand Prix, the last race held in Imola since the COVID year in 2020, when they started racing in Imola again.
Huh.
Yeah, true story.
There we go. Always a tie-in.
Yes, but that's it for Fabrizio Del Monte.
And that's it for us this week. For Justin Kinney, I'm Caleb Hatch. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, maybe some driver news. Who knows what will come this offseason here on New Track Record Podcast.
Podcasts by Federated Media.